Hello, everybody. Reggie Tam here, and today we're just going to be not reviewing any hands, but just reviewing my month in terms of my results, what I've been playing, what I haven't been playing, and my plans for next month and further afield than that. First of all, um, this is going to be my last video for at least a fortnight because this week I'm working more hours. It's half term, so I've got more actual work hours to do. So I won't be around in the mornings when I usually record my videos to record any videos. Next week is my current wife's 50th birthday, so she's off work all week, and I'll be spending some time with her and not playing an awful lot of poker. And then the week after that, I'll be back to normal. But as we're going to discover going on in this video, I'm not sure how much No Limit Hold'em I'm going to be playing, and given that most of the viewers of my channel tend not to watch the No Limit Hold'em video, the non-No Limit videos like the pot limit or the short deck, etc. Given the videos don't do that well on views, I'm not sure how worth it is making non-No Limit Hold'em videos. So yeah, I guess we'll get on straight away and just look at like the month in terms of sessions, how much money we've lost or made. We've played for 3 hours and 3 days and 9 hours, so 81 hours this month on the tracked sites. We've made $700 or thereabouts. Ran way over EV, and yeah. So on the face of it, it's been a reasonable month. I certainly can't complain in terms of we've made money, so it's been a success. But in terms of like hourly rate and what have you, it's it's shambles, isn't it? It's like way less than $10 an hour, which is fine. I mean, I don't play anymore like seriously to like make an income. Now it's just I'm going to play, enjoy myself, and hopefully make a little bit just to like top up my income. But we're not in a situation where we need to make $1,000+ per month or £1,000 per month or what have you. So we're certainly not complaining in terms of that. We're going to be able to eat more than beans on toast for another month. It's all good. But there's too much red in there. It's just like, especially towards the end of the month, look, red, 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 red. But it's not really been consistent all month. I'm the sort of player who, like, this is more how I'm used to it looking at. The start of the month wasn't too bad. Lots and lots of green, not so much red, etc. And then we just started to not have the worst of times towards the end of the month. And I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make any excuses about why this is the case. Frankly, I just didn't play very well at No Limit Hold'em. I didn't play very well because I wasn't enjoying the games. I wasn't enjoying the games because they were generally pretty fucking shit. Then my MO for as long as I've been playing with the intention of trying to make money rather than just playing recreationally at the time when at the start when I first started playing poker. My method has always been play pretty tight, find soft games, beat them up. That's how it's always been. That's how I've made, like, who knows how much now. I mean, getting up for $300,000 probably, which sounds a lot, but over the length of time I've been playing, it's not a lot. It's just how I've operated. It's how I've done things, and it's getting harder and harder to do that in No Limit to the point now where I think it's close to impossible to employ that method across all sites, with the exception maybe of Sky Poker. So it's just not enjoyable for me. I'm never going to be the sort of player who wants to get into games and just like battle really hard against other semi-decent regulars, and that's all I am. It's all I've ever been, is like a semi-decent regular. I still think I'm a semi-decent regular. Just semi-decent regulars back in the day used to win at 10 big blinds 100 without really having to break much sweat, and now semi-decent regulars don't beat the rake, or just about beat the rake, and that's about where I'm at with No Limit Hold'em now. I'm just about beating the rake, and it's been a big enough sample size now where that's just it. I can't, you can't say, oh, it's variance, red Joe, it's this or it's that. I am a barely beat the rake No Limit Hold'em player, and by barely beat the rake, I mean like anything between 2.5 to 5 big blinds 100, depending on on where it is I'm playing. Probably more than that on Sky if your game select well. But then but if your game selecting well, then you can't get volume. You can't. You used to be able to game select well and get volume back in the day. Back in like 2009, 2000 through to maybe 2012, 13, you could game select well and still, if you played over 100 hours a month, you could still get 40, 50,000 hands. Now, if you're game selecting well and you're playing the same amount of hours, you may be getting half of that because there just aren't enough good tables around to get volume and game select. So then your options are: do we move up, play a little bit higher, so that you're coming in to like competition with tougher regulars, but also maybe like slightly more splashier fish. It feels to me like like the lower you play, the more you just even like the fish are pretty fucking nitty. Seems to like you have to play a little bit higher to find like slightly better regulars, but maybe slightly more aggressive fish who aren't just there. Like a lot of the fish, they've gone from being back in the olden days playing 50 or 60 VPIP with a single digit PFR, so now they're playing maybe a 25 to 30 VPIP with a single digit PFR. So your fish these days, instead of being 55/4, are now maybe like 27/6 or 27/9, things like that. There's just not as much money going around. The fish that have stuck around have at least learned they need to play much tighter. Their like ranges for putting money in post flop aren't as loose as they used to be, etc. The game's just got harder to beat. I wouldn't say it's got tougher in terms of like, there's a bunch of fucking real sickos. It's just got harder to beat because, well, a few factors really. The fish have got tighter, the regs have got slightly better, and rewards have gone down. Back in the day, we would all on, I don't know, 40, 50% rate back deals in soft games playing higher volumes. So you were making money from your win rate and you were making reasonable money at rate back. That just isn't the scenario now. Everything's just got a little bit worse. Be it like the standard of the regs has got better, which is worse for us. The rates got higher in terms of we're getting less rate back. So even though the rate hasn't gone up, our rewards or our rate back has got lower. So that's another chunk of our profit. And then the fish have got tighter. So you've just been squeezed from all directions. If you're like me, like a semi-decent but not like elite level regular or very high level regular, your margins have just been squeezed all over the place, and it just becomes less and less fun. I don't want to be a guy who's paying rake in 10, 11 big blinds 100, not having fun and making anything from 2.5 to 4 big blinds 100. It's a shit economy. We've talked about it before in previous videos where it's kind of getting more and more of like a rigged economy against the players. The sites are putting the squeeze on, good regulars are putting the squeeze on, training content, the solver output, which has improved like the really good players to a super high level. It's also dragged mediocre regs up to a higher level where they're just harder to make money from. Now, it used to be you could make money, pretty decent money still from the worst regs. That's harder now because it's just a shitty dynamic in the game, isn't it? People they know what ranges to play pre-flop pretty well, not brilliant, but pretty well. And then there's a lot more of this orange kind of range bet. There's a lot more regs that are playing the same sort of ways, which the bad regs are harder to exploit now, especially on the earlier streets like pre-flop and flop, because they just know what to do more often in terms of it's not good. They might not know what to do with their exact hand or their range, but just the things that they are doing in general, like checking more, betting smaller with wider ranges, etc. All the really basic shit that you can pick up just from watching, even only a half decent streamer or some cheap basic training content. All that stuff just makes the games a lot harder to beat. The shit regs that you used to in the day, the 3-bet a small amount, then C-bet with a really high frequency using a really big sizing, pretty exploitable. Now they're 3-betting a little bit more. They're not C-betting as many flops. When they do C-bet, they're C-betting slightly better boards for them using smaller sizes. They're just less exploitable, and that's what a lot of the training content, what solver output does. It helps make you less exploitable. It doesn't make you that much better as a player. It doesn't make you some sort of sicko genius. It just reduces how quickly you're losing against better regulars, if you will. Like say back in the day, you used to have a regular um, who was not very good, and they were kind of losing quite hard to better regulars, but winning enough from fish to make it worth their while. Now there's not as many fish around, and but so they're not winning as much from them, but they're doing slightly better against other regulars. It's just, I think it's a rubbish game now. No Limit Hold'em microstakes cash. I think it's really rubbish. I think there's just really the margins just aren't there anymore. For all the reasons we've talked about, and I'm just not enjoying it. And a lot of these, some of these will be pot limit Omaha, some won't be. But if we take a look at the graph for the month, this was like the start of the month, 20 NL, 50 NL. So we had a bit spiky. This is in euros. So with different stakes mixed into this, why the graph looks such a clusterfuck. But basically, you can see it's been very, very up and down. Most of the downs in this are going to be like the No Limit Hold'em, and then we've had a good month at Pot Limit Omaha. But it's just been. I've not played well. I've tilted a few times because I've just been that fucking bored and fed up with the same like small pool of like half-ass regulars, just doing things, and then I've spewed a little bit, I've punted a little bit off. Just got really irritated with the game basically, and my mental game, although it's still pretty damn good in terms of I don't tilt very often, it's getting much worse at No Limit Hold'em now because I'm just so bored with it. I just I get into a session, I'm halfway in or I'm half an hour in, and I'm already bored, and I'm bored that I've got a particular, one of maybe 3 or 4 regs. It's just a pain in the ass because they've learned the pre-flop charts pretty well, and I just get so fucking annoyed with them. I'd probably just get annoyed with them because they're probably just better than me. Even though I think they're not that good and they're not that creative. They're just kind of delivering a shit kind of not. It's not GTO, but like solver based. Like they play a solver based style. They're not constructing the ranges correctly, and they're not doing it well. But they're doing it well enough that it fucking bores me to tears and it irritates me. And that's on me. That's not on them because they're doing nothing wrong. That's on me for just not adjusting to them, to not studying hard enough to like try and figure out how we can still exploit them, etc. Not working hard enough on my game to counter their albeit limited strategy. That's frankly because I mean this has been coming a long time. I just can't be asked to study No Limit Hold'em because like what is the point? The game's going to continue to get like shitter and shitter for regulars as like more and more recreational players get squeezed out. The cost of living problems that's going on around the world now, especially in the UK. All these things are going to force more and more losing players out of the game, and we're just going to end up with like a shitter and shitter and shitter No Limit Hold'em pool to play in. And I'm just, it's not something. It's not. I don't see myself continuing to like bash my head against that wall because I just will not. I will not enjoy the game. That's why like my last few videos have been at the Pot Limit Omaha or 6+. We got into 6+ later in the video. But there's still plenty of like money to be made at poker. I think that tournament's still a place where you can legitimately do okay, but the problem is you've got to play high volume. People don't have the time to play high volume. I certainly don't have the inclination to put 6-7 hour sessions in playing tournaments. It's just not for me. I like my sessions to be quite short and sharp. 1.5, 2 hours, take a break. Do that 2 or 3 times per day. That's been my approach for years. I don't have like 6-hour sessions in me anymore. I tend to lose focus, get bored, however you want to describe it, pretty quickly. And the only time I usually put long sessions in is when I'm fucking buried and I'm trying to dig out of a hole, which is fucking bad mindset, bad mental game, or when I'm at really, really good tables and I'm enjoying it and it's going well. The only times I tend to put really good sessions in these days. But there is still money to be made in tournaments, although not as much. But I think like in the non-Hold'em games, it's still a decent environment. There's still if we were going to like review some hands today, we could look at some PLO hands where I've been at tables with multiple fish. I've been at like 6-max tables where there's been maybe me, 1 or 2 like really tight regulars, and I'm a tight regular at PLO, and so I'm not criticizing those guys. And 3 legitimate, like really bad players, and you can create that environment for yourself quite a lot playing PLO, where you just cannot do that at No Limit anymore. I watch content creators, I watch YouTube, I watch Twitch, and I see um, the streamer or the YouTube video creator saying how bad somebody is. Oh, this guy's really shit. He's awful. And then they'll refer to their stats. Oh, this guy's really fucking bad. Look, have you seen his stats? He's playing like 24/9. And like, what? What do you mean he's really bad? Yeah, I get someone playing 24/9 isn't good. But if they're the players that you're like, this guy's really fucking bad, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy, etc., then it shows just how rubbish the games are. Um, someone's getting criticised and being labelled as like a whale or something because they're playing, I don't know, 33/25 with a 15% 3-bet. Yeah, that guy again, he's too loose, he's too aggressive, but he's certainly not a fucking total moron or a total whale. So like when you're seeing guys who are playing a lot of volume describing players who previously wouldn't have been classed as fish as whales, then it just shows like what a pretty bad state the games are in. And if you're building your win rate around these sorts of players, then you're going to have a disappointing time. You're going to have a lot of variance. You're not going to have a huge edge over them, regardless of what you think of their game. Then they're going to be able to put you in tough spots, shit spots. Like the aggressive guys are going to put you in some pretty tough, shitty spots, which are never fun. And on the more like weak type passive end of the spectrum, they're just not going to give you as much action on their good hands because they're just going to not be aggressive enough. They're not going to bluff enough, so you can't really bluff catch very effectively against them, and they're just going to be harder to get value from because they're just folding too often. Which yes, you can make money by making them fold too much, but no one makes a lot of money by forcing 24/9s to overfold. You might think you do, but you don't because they don't put much money in the pot. So that when you are making them overfold, you're making them overfold in relatively small pots. And then when they decide they're not folding, if you're bluffing them too often, then you're just going to lose too much money to them that way. You're going to make their weakness into a strength, if you will. So all in all, this is me saying this from like a bad reg perspective. If you're a good player, none of this really applies to you because if you're still in like the top 5-10% of any pool, you're going to be crushing. The problem. Oh, who's ringing me this time of day? Oh, it's my alarm clock. Get off. So this is me like talking like a mediocre to bad reg now, not the good reg that I feel I used to be. So if you're like top 5-10%, none of this really applies. But most of us aren't. A lot of people who watch these videos are going to be in maybe the top 35 to 40%. Some of you guys aren't going to be in that. Some of you guys are going to be like losing players, etc., or maybe just slightly break even or winning a little bit after rate back. And you're keeping going, no limit. Like if I just work a little bit harder, study just a little bit more, if I just tilt one session less, you're telling yourself all these things that you can do just to try and get that win rate from 0 or 1 big. So I can get 5-6 bigs 100 if I just work a bit harder. And yes, you can, but no, you fucking won't, because it's just really hard. The game is like, the people's understanding of the game is galloping on faster than you can keep up with, faster than I can keep up with. If you're a working man or if you're someone who doesn't really want to study that much, just want to play and enjoy it, the game is going to continue just running away from you. It's going to be like Shergar in the 81 Derby. It's in front of you now, and it's just going to keep getting further and further and further away from you. You're not going to catch up. You've got to be like a really, really dedicated to beat the micro stakes. And what is that? You're playing poker for like 5 cent, 10 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent, whatever it is you're playing, even 25 cent, 50 cent. And if you're not really, really dedicated, you're not going to be able to make any money long term. And that's not what micro stakes poker was like created for. That's not how it should be. But we are only talking no limit hold'em here, and that's just because of like we talked about the environment. The average table stats are like whatever 24/23/16 with a 6% 3-bet. If that's the average pool you're playing against over a whole year, good luck making money if you're not in the top 5% of that pool. There just isn't going to be that much to be made. And the rake's like a real cool. We look at like my month in rake, and this isn't even a particularly high volume month, but I paid $821 in rake. So if I'd played much higher volume, and say this win rate had been even slightly lower because of the volume. I mean, my win rate this month in All in EV is like 2.69. So we cut this number in half. So I made $354 this month. That's what I should have made in theory, had everything ran equally. And I've made less than half the money that the site's made. I put 100 hours in, and the site's made twice as much from my play as I have. I mean, come on, is that reasonable? I mean, it's a situation that I'm in. Some of you guys will be in an even worse situation than that. And you're just there bashing buttons, making lots of money for the sites and not making an awful lot for yourself. It's a shit environment. I'm not. I refuse to be part of that going forwards. So yeah, we're not going to be doing much of that. I mean, if I'd have played, say, another 20 hours this month, I'd have had to make $1,000 just to break even. And it's nonsense, So if you extrapolate that to over a year, you got to make $12,000 at poker over the course of a year, maybe more. If you're a Micro Stakes poker player, averaging say 30,000 hands a month, you've got to make $12,000 just to break even. It's a fucking lot of money. It's a lot of money that you're having to pay just to break even in the game before you can make any money at No Limit Hold'em. And that's just my opinion, but I think it's pretty accurate. But that's at the end of the negatives. The positives, I still fucking love playing poker. I'm a gambler. It's what I am. It's what I've been since the age of fucking, I don't know, 13, 14, 15. Brought up in pubs, was brought up around people who drank and gambled. I was going in the bookies at 15, things like that. I've always been a gambler. I've been a gambler for the last over 30 years of my life. That's not going to change. Poker's my preferred format of gambling, then horse racing, then a bit of snooker and what have you. So I'm always going to be a poker player. And if it turns out that I end up just being somebody who can't win anymore, then I have to manage my poker in a way that I still get pleasure from it, knowing I'm a losing player. Whether I could do that or not, I don't know. But I'm always going to be a poker player for as long as I'm not hemorrhaging money. So what am I going to be? My no limit era is almost certainly over, unless something significantly changes in the landscape. And we talked about this before. That I think there are ways you can change the game to make it more fun, to make it less fucking dull and predictable. I've talked about this a few times. Adding antes to games would be a good start. Adding an extra blind. Enforcing people to start with deeper stacks. Can you imagine how much different No Limit Hold'em would be if you're playing 250 big blinds deep, with 3 blinds and an ante? So there was I don't know, 8 or 9 blinds in the pot before you started, or 7.5, 8 blinds in the pot before you started. But you started 250 blinds deep. It would be a completely different game to what we play now, 100 big blinds deep, 1.5 blinds in the pot. It would be a better game. It would be more fun. And I think for a while there will be many more edges to be found, because a lot of the strategies that people currently employ just wouldn't be as effective because of how deep stacks are. People wouldn't be able to get away with just being pretty good pre-flop and flop players, because they would need to play more turns and rivers well too, because stacks are much deeper. You'd just be playing more turns and rivers. That's another part of the problem with No Limit Hold'em. It's kind of like a pre-flop and flop game now. Most of the big decisions are made either pre-flop or on the flop, and then turns and rivers are kind of, they don't play themselves, of course, but they are. There's less interesting spots, because usually by then you're down to an SPR of 1 or 2 if it's been a reasonable size pot, and it's just kind of, is my hand good enough now at this point, or not good enough? So that didn't word that very well, didn't come out that very well, but basically, you're not really playing down the streets as often in No Limit Hold'em now as we were 10, 15 years ago. It's a lot more. Most of the big decisions have been made before you get to turns and rivers, in the vast majority of hands. Of course, there's some hands where you play turns and rivers, but in the vast majority of hands, especially in the big pots, the big decisions have been made pre-flop and flop. And after that, you kind of just committed to your hand. You're either committed to your bluff, or you're committed to your call down, or you're committed to your value bets and things. it's kind of like it's a 2 street game now, much more than it's a 4 street game. So that's the end of like the anti-no limit hold'em rant. We got to now what I have been doing with like pot limit Omaha and with 6+. I guess we'll do the 6+ bit first because we'll get the more negative stuff out the way. I think I played like 20 odd hours of 6+. Sadly, they don't import into Hold'em Manager. If they do, I haven't found out a way of doing it. And I didn't make money. I think I lost like $200 and something playing. But when I looked at and I probably should have had this ready for you, but in fact, yeah, we'll pause a moment and we'll try and bring this up actually to try and like give you with some visual representation of what I'm going to talk about. So this is my short deck results for the month on GG Poker. You can see we've played 4,830 hands. And I'm guessing I played more hours than I thought. I forgot I didn't realize I played that many hands. So this is just for the month, isn't it? Yeah. First of the month to the end of the month. And if we look at this EV graph, and this is like a pretty ugly graph, pretty hideous graph. As you can see, it kind of like did okay, ended up maybe making around $100 in all in EV, but losing like 100. Now that's nonsense for a start, that losing 100 number, because that's like pre-rake. When my rake goes into that, I think, like I said, pretty sure lost around $200 to $230 playing short, which is nothing in that game. It's like it's a trivial amount of money to win or lose. But again, it's like I think it's a relatively high rake environment. I'm not very good at the game. In fact, I'm not good at all. And what kind of spoiled it for me, I haven't played for like the last few days, is that there seems to be, and again, of course, it's Eastern European, it's Russian, etc. Too many players who like buy into them games. There's a guy, I think he's called Fish 2023, and he'll play like 10 cent ante, 25 cent ante, 50 cent ante. Not sure he plays any higher, and he just like plays every table that he's going, and he buys in for like 50 antes. He just got like a kind of, he's not all in all fold, but he's like playing like a short stacker strategy where he basically turns it into just a pre-flop game, and there's 2 or 3 more players like him. And one, if you like, when you're playing later at night when they're all in bed, the games are pretty good. When you play through the day, they're awful, because if you get 2 or 3 of them players only buying for 50 antes at the table, and then their strategy is just all in all fault, it's just again it's a shit dull game, and it's pretty easy just to run bad in those situations. If basically you're at the entire game for maybe a session, even if you're just 2 or 3 tabling, if there's 2 or 3 of these guys playing like anything between 8 to 12 tables in the pool, then the pool's just like you can't get away from them. There's maybe 2 or 3 of them at every table, and it's just not a fun game anymore. They just like Russians and Eastern Europeans tend to do. They just suck all the fun out of the game with their like shit fucking anti-fun strategies. Just not that good a game. I'm not sure how beatable it is. It's certainly not beatable for someone like me who hasn't really studied the game for a long time. But yeah, that's my results in short deck for the month. So you were down like 200. I don't think I'll be playing that because I don't like the 50 anti-buy-in. Because I think it, like I say, there's players who probably do okay. They're probably just like crushing the rate back because they're playing so much volume. Probably playing a relatively shit break-even strategy with decent rate back because they're playing so many hands. They're going to be like top of the leaderboards. They're going to be getting relatively good rate back. They're going to be getting enough entries into that GG free roll thing. Whereas like they could probably make hundreds of dollars a month in rate back. So if they're break even at the table, then they're probably doing okay. But yeah, fuck those fucking guys. So we're not going to be doing too much 6+ because it's just a shit show basically. It's fun, but it's just a shit show. So we'll get back to this now. Then we get into like the decent news of the month. If we just change, oh excuse me, we'll go back to the graph and change this just to PLO for the month. This is where the news gets much better. Sample size is fucking shambolic, of course. Oh, Reg getting the right fucking thing, you idiot. But that's a much nicer situation. That's nearly all. I think, in fact, it's close to 100%. Like €50 buying PLO on a site. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want some of you fuckers coming in and upsetting the apple cart. But yeah, that's much better. It's a shit sample size, but I've like kind of worked a little bit on my PLO, specifically pre-flop strategy, that has been helping me avoid a lot of the situations that used to come up quite a lot. If we look at like in fact, let's just do it this way. Look at my PLO graph long term. So this year, not sure where we can't. Can you get just all hands? Why can't you just fucking get all? You used to just get all hands. Ah, fuck it. This year's enough anyway. Oh, is it? Is it really enough? Not really. Anyways, my polymorph graph it tends to be pretty fucking spiky. But as you can see, this month it hasn't been over a small sample. There's last year in there too. That's more like it. You can see how it is. Like there's lots of like sharp downswings in there, etc. So my PLO, even though it's like okay, we were making money, it's nothing like you can see like the difference even over a small sample in the shape of the graphs. That's last year. That's this year. Before we had this month, it was kind of a bit spiky up and down, and then we got this month, and it's been pretty pure just upswing. And I'm not going to pretend this is who I am at PLO now. This is my win rate because of course it fucking isn't. Of course I've been like running really good. But I've changed a few things pre-flop. I'd like it's theoretically unsound. Jay Nandez, who would be like the most respected like training content provider, kind of insists you open for pot. Last time I watched him stuff, he insists you open for pot all the time. I haven't been because like one of my biggest leaks in PLO or one of my biggest bugbears in PLO is like you'll open for pot, then it will like someone will 3-bet you or whatever. Basically, the pots just get way too fucking big, and you end up getting to flops, multi-way flops, 3-bet pots, etc. Where the SPR is like 1.5, but there's 3 people in the fucking pot or 4 people in the pot, and you're forced to have the best hand to win, and you've got to like take a lot of punts with your like pre-flop hands that were really like decent pre-flop that they haven't really matured into good hands post flop, but you've got enough hand where you just got to go with it post flop against 3 opponents when where maybe you've got anything from like say 20 to 45, 50% equity. And my strategy it was fine in terms of like that's just how the game plays. But I've basically taken to raising much smaller. So then when you do get up against the more like aggro 3-betters, you're still forcing them to play like relatively deep SPRs post flop, which is I wasn't doing it. And as you can see, it's gone really well. We barely had any big downswings where we've had like our aces cracked 3 times in a row. Where my strategy basically used to be where if my aces got cracked, they usually got cracked in a big pot because it'd been like pot open or someone would pot open, I'd pot 3-bet, someone would like 2 people would call behind, etc. Whereas now it's not. I'm not. My pre-flop strategy is way less fucking aggressive in terms of like the hands I'm choosing to 3-bet with, the hands I'm choosing to open, and it's way less aggressive in terms of like the sizes I'm using too, because I just want to get post flop with anyone and just have much larger SPRs because you know Potley is meant to be a post flop game, meant to be played deep stacked post flop. It's not about pre flop. In No Limit, you can't do that because it doesn't matter what size you make it pre flop, people can still make it whatever fucking size they want behind you. So they can still make big pots, even if you like open small. In PLO, you can't make big pots. If I open for fucking min, you can only make it like 6.5 lines with your 3-bet. Then I can just call, and then we get into a post up SPR of like I don't know, depending on how deep you are, way more than fucking 10. So you can't just be like, oh, LOL aces. I've 3-bet fucking pre-flop over 2 squeezes. We've got an SPR of 1.5. I'm all in, kind of thing, or not all in, but you know what I mean. I'm effectively committed to this hand. Aces go down a lot in value post flop in these games. So a lot of the players who like just want to 3-bet their aces and kings and things, they want to make the SPR as shallow as possible, as small as possible, as quickly as possible. Whereas I don't want to. I'm happy to like just take these hands post flop, not necessarily always 3-bet them, certainly not the better ones. And it's just more fun. It's just a better game. And even if I'm only winning long term at the same rate I'm winning at No Limit, I'm just gonna have way more fun doing it. And I actually think, even though I'm not a good PLO player, given that the games I can get in at PLO rather, compared to the games I can get in at No Limit, I actually think my PLO win rate will now be higher than my No Limit win rate, purely based on um the reg to fish ratio in the pools I play in. So yeah, into next month we're certainly going to be starting off playing Pot Limit Omaha. Um, if I end up going back to playing No Limit, then that's not good news. It means Pot Limit Omaha's not gone well. I haven't got any volume goals. I haven't got any financial goals. I've just got play, enjoy, see what happens goal. Like try and play lots of hours because I have lots of hours to play. Um, I mean, I barely, broke 100 hours a month for most months this year. I think February was the exception to that rule, and there's no reason why I can't play 120 to 150 hours per month. If I'm enjoying it, I would do that. It's a factor. It's like it's a good indication of how little I've been enjoying poker this year so far. But if we looked at my like hours per month, we're probably running at the amount of hours I could have played this year so far compared to what I have played. We're probably only at about maybe 60 to 70% of the volume that I could have played or the hours that I could have played, and that's the testament to how little I've enjoyed it. So yeah, we're going to be starting the month playing Pot Limit Omaha, and because you guys don't tend to like Pot Limit Omaha videos, I'm not going to make it too many videos of it. If I do, it will probably be like just like a live play video because like the hand reviews when you're doing PLO, it's usually just going to be like, oh look at this, it's big hand versus big hand, etc. And I'm not good enough to um to break hands down strategically and make them interesting. It's kind of like LOL, got a reasonable hand, let's fucking go sort of thing still. How I play. So there's not going to be any like hand analysis videos because I'm not good enough to do that. And yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I've been saying for ages I might stop making videos, and I never do. And I'm not saying now I'm going to stop making videos. What I am saying is, um, I don't know when I'm going to be coming back to making them because I'm definitely not over the next fortnight. That's definitely not going to happen because I just will not have the time to do it. I won't be free at the times in the mornings to make them. So definitely not making any for a fortnight. Who knows after that? Probably not for a little while. Um, so yeah, it's been a relatively depressing video in terms of like me giving my opinion on the state of No Limit. Some of you guys will no doubt disagree. If you do disagree, then please leave your comments in the section. You're right. A lot of you were thinking, look, this guy's a fucking salty old fucking nitfish. Can't beat the games anymore, and he's whining. Well, that's partly right. I am a salty old nitfish. I can still beat the games. I just don't enjoy them anymore. And yes, I am fucking whining. So yeah, that's going to be the end of that. Good luck in whatever you're doing for the month. If I don't make a video for a while, do enjoy your summer. Try and get out in the fresh air. Try and it's the first summer for maybe for a good while where we've had all of our freedoms back. So yeah, please do get out, enjoy the summer, enjoy spending time with your friends, with your family, etc. Have a really good time, and yeah, be lucky at the tables, be lucky in life, and yeah, just go around, try and put smiles on faces. Try and keep a smile on your own face, and try and put smiles on the faces of others. If you're doing that, you're going to have a relatively nice, happy life. Um, who knows when I'll be back? Hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. Hopefully we won't have been nuked by then. If we have been nuked, then this might be the last video we ever make. But hopefully we won't have been nuked. We won't have all caught fucking monkeypox. And we'll be back later in the year, or maybe even later in the month with some more videos. But for now, we'll leave it there. Take care, everybody. Be lucky and be kind. Bye bye.